Do you ever experience creative block? If so, keep watching. This is the perfect video for you because I'm going to be giving you a bunch of tips for daily, weekly, or monthly habits that you can start implementing into your routine that will help you improve your creativity and come up with new ideas. So grab a pen and paper, grab a cup of coffee, and let's get started. Number one is to take inspiration from others. Now, I don't believe in copying. I don't think it's right to copy other people's work or to plagiarize someone else's ideas. But I do think that exposing yourself to creative language quite a lot of the time can help you to really start improving your ability to come up with ideas yourself. What is it about these illustrations and artworks that I love so much that resonate with me? Why do I like following these people? What is it about their style that really captivates me? When I was going through the beginning of my art journey, one of the first things that I did was start looking at Pinterest, and I just created a bunch of boards on Pinterest, like inspiration boards for various different types of illustrations. So I made an inspiration board for like beautiful landscape art, I made one for concept art, for fantasy, for character design. And I just let my Pinterest feed take me on a journey through all of these amazing illustrations. And I just started pinning loads of stuff that inspired me for various different reasons. And you know, this thing, it really helped me to sometimes come up with ideas because I'd see lots of amazing stuff that people might have been doing and I'd be like, oh, okay, cool, maybe I could do my own spin on this kind of illustration, or maybe I could create my own landscape that's kind of inspired by this person's ideas. Collecting inspiration from others and allowing yourself to develop a bit of a sensitivity for the creative language that you're trying to speak is a really important thing, because when you're allowing yourself to be exposed to the creative language from other people's perceptions and other people's approach to creating beautiful artworks, then you start to develop a bit of a sensitivity for what it is that makes a composition look good, what kind of colours you like, what kind of composition style you like, what sort of style of creating mood and lighting do you like, and just looking at how other people do it and seeing the things that you find yourself drawn to, you can really start to get a bit of inspiration about the kinds of things that you would like to start creating yourself as you develop. So yes, collecting lots of stuff regularly and exposing yourself to creative languages that you want to explore. Fantastic point. So I definitely think that's number one on the list. Number two is get out into the world and start being inspired by the experience of your life that you're having right now. A lot of the inspiration that I get from my work, I get from going out into the world and exploring new places, meeting new people, experiencing things that I am sometimes a little bit nervous to do, you know, getting out of my comfort zone and really trying to live a full and exciting life and being present. So I think getting used to going outside, even if it's just, you might be going for a walk in your town and you might just put your phone away and just really focus on the world around you, get inspired by seeing the things around you. Are there stories that you can unpack? Are there beautiful things that you have never noticed before which you could draw inspiration from in your neighbouring town or a forest nearby? You know, if you want to go a bit further adrift, and you can, go fly out to another country for a bit and experience some of the world and get inspired by the stories that you see in that culture. You can definitely have an adventure without having to go traveling, and you could get a train to like a nearby village or town that you've never been to before and just take your push bike and cycle around and just get inspired by all the sights and the smells and the culture that you feel in that place. I also think that, you know, experiencing your life, it also plays into thinking about your life and, you know, what experiences have you had in your life that have been moving and that have inspired you? Have you fallen in love? Have you climbed Mount Everest? Have you skydived? Have you scuba dived? Have you gone on a moped across Thailand to Vietnam? Have you been to Australia and driven through the outback? There's so many things that we could create stories from that are all around us. We just need to be open to looking for them. Number three is to start reading some interesting books. This is one of my suggestions that I think you probably wouldn't do every week or necessarily every month. But I think if you could read a couple of good books per year that are full of inspiring topics, maybe they're fictional books and they've got beautiful descriptive language that really paints a picture in your mind of a story, a scenario, characters, and a way of creating mood with that kind of emotional descriptive language. And I think a lot of the time the stories that you read about, both again through fictional books but also through factual books and topics that you find interesting, you can really draw so much inspiration from. Like, I love reading about the cosmos and astrophysics. I love reading books about behavioral psychology and the way the brain works, and like neuroscience, and also things about history and spirituality. And there's so many there's so many things that I can draw inspiration from these topics that I'm interested in by reading books about it, understanding more about that topic, and becoming a little bit more of an amateur expert in a topic that I find interesting. I can then draw inspiration from those things. Like, I really love reading about ancient history, and there's so many ideas that I've had which I still haven't gotten around to making, but I've written them down. So many ideas that I've had which are based on, ancient Egypt or ancient Rome or Mesopotamia, or the days of hunter-gatherers where everybody was a hunter-gatherer and we had no society. There's so many things that I'd like to draw inspiration from through my knowledge of history that I think my ideas can be kind of endless sometimes. Number 4 is to observe the world around you and the things that are going on in the world around you. So this isn't quite the same as going out and physically doing things in the world, but I think keeping up with current events. What are things that are going on right now in the world? Are there things happening around the world that you would like to create artworks to speak to? Are there political struggles going on? Are there changes in the environment, the ecosystem? Are there positive things and negative things happening? What is going on in the world around you in terms of movies and culture? Are there any big films that are coming out which are kind of things that people are really interested in right now that you could maybe draw some inspiration from and create some sort of inspired artwork that might relate to a big topic that's in the news right now, or a big movie that's coming out, or a big series that's wrapping up? Things that really you might be drawn to. Is there anything going on in the world that you might find yourself wanting to create some artwork based on? Number 5 is to watch documentaries about nature. And obviously I know not everybody's artwork and style is all about nature like mine is, but I have to admit that even before I found that my style was very rooted in trying to help people reconnect with nature, I really enjoyed watching nature documentaries, like David Attenborough's documentaries, ones on BBC. And for me, something that I find endlessly inspiring is all the colours and the shapes and the creativity of nature. And when you see how all of these bizarre animals and insects and stuff, they all seem to have this symbiotic connection with the earth, and everything is just in this perfect harmony and balance. The beauty of that really inspires me in so many ways. And when I'm designing landscapes and things that I want to paint, and even characters for books that I'm working on for my clients, I do find that a lot of the time I'm drawing inspiration from those documentaries and the things that I know about nature and how everything kind of works together. So, watching nature documentaries, but also I guess watching documentaries about so many other things. And again, this ties back into reading books about topics that you find interesting. If you can learn about the world around you and visually experience getting knowledge about things in the world around you, maybe you can start drawing inspiration from that. So maybe your style is a bit more mechanistic and you like drawing quite like mechanical and architectural things. So maybe you could start watching documentaries about those topics, so you can start understanding how did these things get put together, how do they work, and also drawing from that as a little 5.2 add-on. I think watching films that are really inspiring, that have like really creative ways of showing concepts that maybe are quite difficult to perceive. Like, for example, Interstellar was an incredible film because they really tried to get the concept of a fourth dimensional reality in quite a literal sense, in a way that you could visualize it. And I thought it was quite interesting to see how somebody might try and visualize something which is beyond our three-dimensional perception. So watching films that inspire you and have interesting designs of characters and landscapes, and it could be anything from Interstellar to Marvel, and watching the Avengers and seeing how they do all the character designs, and all the way to Star Wars, when you get to see how do they design the ships, how do they create this sense of futuristic language in their artwork that makes them communicate the time that they are supposed to be living in. Number 6 is to meditate. I've been meditating for a little over 2.5 years now, consistently, and I do find that a lot of the time when I am sitting, I find creative ideas will arise within my mind. Although in the practice of meditation I'm experiencing letting go of those things, allowing them to arise and letting them sort of fade out gently into the background, I still find that the ideas that happen to come up in my mind a lot of the time are responses to things that are going on in my life, or in, you know, ideas that I've had mulling around in the background of my subconscious that are sort of coming up to try and distract my mind from focusing on my breath. And sometimes those ideas can be really interesting, and I will let them go in the moment, and later on when I'm not meditating anymore, I can think about those ideas once again and bring them back to the surface and write them down and develop on them. Sometimes when you're in that stress state of trying to come up with ideas and you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself, you do create mental blockades. So meditating is a great way to loosen those mental blockades and allow the ideas to flow a bit more freely. And ironically, by letting go of feeling like you need to come up with ideas, a lot of the time the ideas do just start to flow through you. So I definitely think for those of you who are interested in meditation, it's a really important practice for having a clear mind that allows you to come up with new ideas and not worry so much about putting pressure on yourself. I find a lot of the time when I'm so busy focusing on what I can't do and getting frustrated about it, it actually really hinders me from being able to complete that task, because I'm just so busy thinking about all the things that I can't do that I'm not giving my mind a break to allow ideas to form. So meditation is really great, and it's been a huge help for me since I started doing it. Number 7 is to listen to the people around you, be curious and ask questions. I cannot tell you how many people I have met in my life that have told me super crazy interesting stories that I have been so inspired by to then go away and use as a basis for an illustration that I might create. Asking people questions and talking to them about their story and really getting deep into like, what is it that makes this person tick? What is it that they've experienced in their life? What adventures have they been on? You can really get so much inspiration from their stories that you could then go away and transform into artworks and stories and things that you can create ideas from. So I definitely think talking to people and learning from their experiences can be a great way of not only coming up with new ideas, but also shifting your perception and trying to understand how is it that other people's minds work? Like, what is it that other people perceive in the world around them that's different to what I perceive? And how can I use that as a way of interpreting my own experiences in a new and exciting way? So I definitely think talking to people, listening, being a good listener, being a good question asker, and being curious about everything around you can be such a important way of drawing inspiration and coming up with new ideas. Number 8, last and not least, is to have a dream journal. Now, your dreams are full of wacky, crazy adventures that most people could never even come up with in their conscious state, but there are so many weird and bizarre things that happen in your dreams that can be used for inspiration. And I find that keeping a notebook next to my bed and writing down just bullet points the second I wake up, before I get out of bed, sometimes if I had a crazy dream, I'll write down some quick bullet points of things that happened, and I'll try and just think to myself, like, where was I a minute ago? Who was I talking to? What was I doing? Asking yourself these questions when you first wake up can start helping your memory come back of the dreams that you just had. And sometimes I've had some crazy adventures in my dreams that I just had to turn into illustrations, and some of my best-selling artworks are based on things that I've dreamt about that I've remembered, and I've thought, oh, how could I bring this crazy bizarre experience that I had in a dream into an illustration? So definitely like keeping a dream journal, writing things down in the morning that come to you when you're fresh and you haven't got the pressures and the stresses of daily life that are sort of sometimes stifling inspiration, I think can be a super powerful way of coming up with ideas. And I think dream journaling is definitely one of the things that has inspired a lot of my artwork. And you know, a lot of the time I'll think about dreams that I've had and I'll wonder, how can I incorporate the bizarreness of these dreams into an illustration? That is it for my tips for boosting your creativity and helping you come up with new ideas. If you guys found these habits useful, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and drop me a comment in the section below and let me know how you found these tips, which of these habits are the most helpful for you, and how are you getting on with boosting your creativity. And also, do you have other ways that you boost your creativity with different habits? And if so, what are those habits? Feel free to write a comment below, let us know, and help other people who are also watching this video to get even more inspiration for good ideas and habits they can start building into their routine to start improving their creativity and overcoming creative blocks when they come up. If you'd like to see more content from me, then don't forget to hit subscribe and the notification bell to get notifications for my weekly videos that I'm releasing every Friday. For those of you who'd like to support my work and help me keep my creative passions going and continue to keep adding value to you guys with these weekly videos, as well as with a load of other extra stuff, then I have started a Patreon account just in the last week. For the next 30 days, everyone who signs up will be getting a special shout out and mention on my channel to say thank you. And on my Patreon, I'm offering a bunch of exclusive extras for people who are able to give anything as small as the price of a cup of coffee per month. It really helps me out because it helps me to continue producing content for you guys. It also is a beautiful space where we can start to create a bit more of a community and we can start to get to know each other on a bit more of a personal level. As Patreons, I'm offering you a ton of extra content ranging from exclusive colouring pages of my most popular artworks and even some artwork that I've never released to the public before, all the way over to one-to-one coaching and getting a free print from my store of your choice. So there's so many things that you can get from these extras, and it means so much to me to be able to have your support, so I really want to add as much value to you guys as possible. So do click the link below, check out my Patreon account, have a browse of some of the extras, and if any of them interest you, feel free to become a Patreon. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next week. Bye.